Awesome. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zenobia Harris. I'm the CEO for the Kent Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to our April luncheon. Today, our guest speaker is Sound Transit, and they have four of their staff members here to give us an update. Before we get going, excuse me, just so you know, this copyrighted webinar is presented by the Kent Chamber of Commerce and may not be reproduced or transmitted without in any form without the express written consent from the chamber. This meeting is also being recorded and hosted live on our Facebook. Our media sponsor is South King Media, also known as I Love Kent. So for all things Kent and community, you can follow them at I Love Kent on Facebook. They also have, as a new member, if you're not aware of their free advertising package for members, reach out to Araya Harley here at the Chamber or check out our website at kentchamber.com for more information.
Julia Atwood. I am the current president of the Kent Chamber and partner and COO with Shannon and Associates. We've a public accounting firm located in Kent for 70 years, and we've been a member of the Kent Chamber since 1967. And it's my pleasure today to introduce our guest speakers, Mike Sheldon, Lynette Riley Hall, and Kirby Hawkins. So please help me welcome Sound Transit.
Thanks, Julia. And I'm also with the Sound Transit team, Katie Drool, and our Government and Community Relations team. I serve on the Kent Chamber Government Affairs Committee also. Really excited to be here today and share some updates with you. I'm going to share our screen. So I want to note we do have a lot of projects in South King County and coming to the city of Kent. So lots of exciting news to share today. And we really appreciate the Chamber's partnership and look forward to continuing to collaborate with everybody. So we're going to run through the whole presentation and then there will be time for questions at the end. So here I'll click us over on the agenda today. First, we'll have Lynette Riley Hall, the Executive Project Director for the Federal Way Link Extension Program. Perhaps you've seen all of the work going on at Star Lake or at up on the West Hill at Kent Des Moines Road. So Lynette will share a project update there. Then Kirby Hawkins will share an update on the Operations and Maintenance Facility South. And then we'll have Matt Sheldon share a little bit about the capital program realignment that is underway and under consideration by our board. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lynette. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Katie. And thank you for having us here today. We really appreciate the opportunity. As Katie said, I'm the Executive Project Director for Federal Way Link Extension. I'd like to acknowledge the collaborative partnership that we have with the City of Kent and others on this project. I'm going to kick off today with a quick overview of our project, which is scheduled to open in 2024. We start at Angle Lake Station in SeaTac and extend south almost 8 miles through the cities of Des Moines and Kent and end up in Federal Way. Our alignment primarily runs along I-5 with 3 new stations at Kent Des Moines near Highline, at South 272nd. This is the site of the old Star Lake Park and Ride, and at the Federal Way Transit Center in downtown Federal Way. When Federal Way Link opens, the travel time through the corridor will be just 12 minutes. That means that a Highline student commuting from Federal Way will have just a 12-minute ride and a short walk to campus. When the project is complete in 2024, there'll be a total of 3,200 parking stalls along the route. That includes new stalls and new garages at Kent Des Moines Station and South 272nd, where the garage will replace the existing parking lot, and an expansion of the Federal Way Transit Center. Our total project goal is $3.1 billion, which includes $790 million federal grant. Next slide, please. Here you can see our project timeline. On this timeline, you can see we're currently in that overlapping yellow and orange box, with design wrapping up in the summer of this year and construction underway. By using the design build delivery method, we're able to optimize our work by overlapping the design and the construction. Of course, both our design and construction activities underway are being done with very strict COVID safety protocols in place. And as I said before, we're scheduled to open in 2024. Next slide, please. Thanks. As mentioned, we're in the final stages of our design work and construction is well underway. Some of the activities that are happening now are drilling shafts and building columns along the alignment that eventually will support the elevated guideway. We're clearing trees, mass excavations and utility relocations to clear the path for our guideway and our facilities, as well as construction at the Kent Des Moines station and garage is underway. The photo on this slide is an aerial shot of some of the work at Kent Des Moines station. Next slide, please. Here we're looking at an aerial drawing of the Kent Des Moines station area. To orient, you can see SR 99 and 30th Avenue running north-south. Entry to the Highline College is on the left. The elevated station will straddle the new 236th Street. The parking garage, including a new food truck plaza, is to the east of the station at the right of the screen. Bus stops and bus layover space are integrated into this design to give a seamless experience for those coming and going to school and work and shopping. The roundabout to the left will serve as the grand entry onto campus, and we're continuing to advance that design in coordination with the City of Des Moines and Highline College. The light green rectangles are being used for construction staging during the project. Once the project is finished, the project will be the site for potential future transit-oriented development, or TOD, and we'll be engaging the community on TOD in the spring of this year, in the coming months. Next slide, please. Thank you. This photo shows the columns and station platform currently being constructed at the Kent Des Moines station area. Not shown, but immediately to the east, the Kent Des Moines garage is now also under construction. Next week, our contractor is going to begin installing girders in this area. And this is a really exciting step for us. Our project is putting many community members to work. So far, 170,000 labor hours have been worked. That's approximately 820 jobs to date. Over the course of the project, we expect to use 2.34 million service hours, which is incredibly exciting. Next slide, please. Here you can see the elevated station crossing the new 236th Street. An example of a Sound Transit station with a similar setup is at Angle Lake. This view is looking east with Highline's campus to your back. You can see Highway 99 in the foreground and the construction or staging potential TOD parcels are in gray. We're in the early stages of planning for future TOD and look forward to partnering with the Chamber and other stakeholders to deliver a dynamic area adjacent to the station. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's another view of the station looking north with the station on the left and the garage on the right. As with all three stations, there'll be stairs and elevators to move between street and platform. Lighting and landscaping will help to keep the area active and safe. The new garage includes about 500 parking stalls, as well as a food truck plaza. You can see a couple of food trucks at the center in the image. Note also that the main pedestrian entrance to the garage will feature one of the project's unique art installations, which will contribute to the dynamic feel of the station area. Heading south along the route, the next new station will be at South 272nd and I-5, the former location of the Star Lake Park and Ride. You may have already seen some construction work starting in that area. The proposed designs for this station feature a garage with 1,100 spaces, replacing the existing surface parking lot. The parking garage is shown as the blue rectangle in the slide. We'll also rebuild a portion of South 272nd Street to improve access. Streets near the location will have new sidewalks with landscaping and will create pedestrian and bike paths to the station plaza and to the existing freeway bus stop. Next slide, please. Here's a rendering of Star Lake Station and parking garage. You can see the parking garage to the right and the station to the left. This view is looking south from the bus loop and pickup or drop-off area. The bus loop will provide easy and reliable connections between buses and light rail. And last but not least, here's a visualization of the Federal Way Transit Center station. The view here is looking to the northwest. The station platform is lit up at the left side of the image, and the existing parking garage is in the center. Our project will be expanding the existing parking garage. The design includes a bus loop for easy transfers at the station. To the west of the station, our current construction staging area is slated for future TOD or transit-oriented development. Next slide, please. As you can see, Federal Way is moving right along. 2024 is going to be here before we know it. Before I pass it off to Kirby and Matt, I want to close with our Loyal to the Local program, which launched for our project earlier this year. Loyal to the Local is a sound transit campaign that encourages folks to support local businesses that are directly impacted by our projects. Our community engagement team has been reaching out to impact businesses to participate. Loyal to the Local ads are appearing in the Kent Reporter, the Federal Way Mirror, social media, and Pandora Radio. We also maintain a map of impacted businesses who have chosen to participate in the program. And next, we're going to show one of our Loyal to the Local ads featuring several businesses near Kent Des Moines Station.
I hope to bring sound jobs to the community, give drivers or employees a good place to work where they're happy, they enjoy coming to work, they make good money, and then they go home, and they have peace of mind. So that's what I would say ideally the point of any business is to offer good sound jobs.
When people bring me their cars, they just want to be treated fairly, and they just want their cars fixed correctly, and they only want to pay for what's really the matter.
We love the company. We love what we've started. We've done this from scratch, and we did it together, and we're going to stay in it together.
So what I like about the customers that come in here, we all treat each other like family. They're all respectful. We all love each other, take care of each other as well. We accept everyone that comes in here, which I love, and everyone's free to be whoever they want to be here. We're all one big family here at JJ's Bar and Grill.
Thank you. To learn more, you can visit Sound Transit's website or reach out to our team. We're committed to being good neighbors during construction and into the future. Thank you for your partnership. And now I'm going to turn it over to Curtin.
All right, well, it is officially afternoon, so good afternoon on this April 1st. Hopefully you have not been subjected to an April Fool's joke. I will not have any for you, so let's continue with the program. So I am going to give you an update on the Operations and Maintenance Facility South. And this one's an important stage. We're at an important stage on this project because we've just issued out what we call our draft environmental impact statement. So the main thing that at the end of the day that I will want you to be aware of is that we really want your comments on what I'm going to talk to you about today, because we're in this formal comment period. So we'll talk more about that. So that's the biggest takeaway. But before we begin, if we can go to the next slide, just some quick background on the Operations and Maintenance Facility South. So what is an OMF? If you're not familiar, an Operations and Maintenance Facility is where our Link light rail trains go for about 4 hours each night, pretty much in the middle of the night, for cleaning, storage, and care before they go back out into service. So you will see the trains operating throughout the day. This is where they go at night. This is where we maintain them. This facility is in operation 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we need 4 operations and maintenance facilities to store and maintain our facilities. This facility in the south will store and maintain over 140 light rail vehicles. And we need to have this facility up and ready for service when we begin our Link light rail extensions to West Seattle and to the Tacoma Dome Link extension. And this facility will employ over 470 individuals working there. And so 470 people, that's a lot of folks. These would be new hires that will be working in this facility. This won't be a remote workforce. These are folks that will need to show up to help maintain our system. And so that's generally going to be a great thing for the business and economy. So you have 470 people showing up every day. They're obviously coming to that community, eating lunch there or whatever, and possibly moving or living within that community as well. So the jobs that are there are also living wage jobs. The average jobs, for example, at our existing facility pay $40 per hour or $83,000 per year. And we'll also have a training facility in this facility as well. So we're in active conversations with King County Metro to explore the development of an apprenticeship program that could get local residents into these high-paying union career jobs. And so these are the types of jobs that work out of an operations and maintenance facility. The largest group of employees are the LRV operators. And then the second largest are light rail vehicle maintenance workers. So I mentioned the apprenticeship possibilities, but even with this suite of jobs that you see here, there's this continuous opportunity for just promotions throughout these jobs as well. So you could begin working at this operations and maintenance facility sort of at an entry-level position, such as a vehicle cleaner, and then you can eventually work your way up to be a vehicle maintenance person as well, which pays a higher paying position, requires more skill. So there's just this great opportunity for a career being within this operations south facility, wherever it's located, career opportunities. So speaking more about the operations and maintenance facility, as I mentioned, we need to identify 4 future facilities. This operations maintenance facility is one of the 4. The OMF South needs to be strategically located in the South Corridor because it's going to help support our regional system. Our Link light rail network will almost triple in size over the next 5 years. And that includes the extensions, as just mentioned, to Federal Way, but we also have extensions to Redmond and Linwood as well. And so we're going to need to identify, in addition to the OMF South, we have an existing facility at just south of downtown Seattle. We have a facility under construction in Bellevue. And then we have a location we need to identify on the north part of our service area as well, in addition to this OMF South. So as far as the operations and maintenance facility, as I mentioned, we've released a draft EIS. And within that draft EIS, we are evaluating 3 locations to possibly pick those sites to build that operations and maintenance facility. So what you see on your screen here are those 3 sites that we're evaluating. One of which is in the city of Kent at the Midway landfill. And then we have 2 other alternatives as well, which are in the city of Federal Way. One that is the South 336th Street site alternative, and then another in Federal Way at the South 344th Street alternative. At the city of, in the city of Kent, the Midway landfill, that one's going to be adjacent to the Federal Way link extension line at the Midway landfill. So the work that Lynette is doing will not preclude us from choosing the Midway landfill as a potential site. We would just need to tie into the Federal Way link extension if the Midway landfill is identified as a potential, as the site. If the site is chosen in Federal Way, and the 336th Street alternative or the 344th Street alternative, we would need to build 1.4 to 1.8 miles of mainline track to reach those sites. However, we would need to build those mainline tracks anyway as part of the Tacoma Dome Link extension service. So we would just build those earlier if one of those sites in Federal Way are identified as the site to be built. So just want you to be aware of that. So we've evaluated that information in the EIS. So at the Midway landfill, because of the unique nature of that landfill, it's a Superfund site. In addition to what we need to do to actually build the facility on top of that site, we need a strategy to address the ground settlement, because there's continuous ground settlement because it is a landfill. So the materials there are decomposing. So we've looked at 3 different options of how we could build on that landfill. So I'll just quickly say that those options include a platform option where we literally just use piers and support the facility on 700 drilled shafts. We look at a hybrid option where we partially pull out some of the contaminated material and we support it with a partial concrete slab over some beams. And then we look at another option where it's a full excavation, where we just pretty much pull everything out of there. And all of these have different costs and timelines that are different. And so we've evaluated these options in the draft EIS. And this slide just quickly shows the things that we studied in the draft EIS. So again, we're seeking comments. We've evaluated these different things such as what's in the built environment, such as impacts on low-income and minority populations, where are the hazardous materials, what are the economic effects, and we've evaluated the natural environment as well, such as impacts to wetlands and sensitive areas, for example, and then transportation impacts. And so we're seeking comments on what we've evaluated. And so this is our schedule. Again, our comment period closes, that we're currently in, closes on April the 19th. And then later this summer, early fall, our board of directors will be asked to identify a preferred alternative. A preferred alternative is not the actual final project. The board will select the final project in mid to late 2022, but in this summer and fall, they'll provide a preference of where they're, where we're leaning toward in summer or fall of 2021. The final EIS in mid 2022, and then as I mentioned, the final project to be built in mid to late 2022. COVID-19 has impacted Sound Transit's finances and our ability to work on a lot of our projects. And so there may be changes to the schedule in the future. So I encourage you to stay involved in our realignment process. Our board talks about that at each of our meetings, it seems like, and they will make decisions in a moment. And Matt's going to talk a little bit more about that, how that could impact us in other projects. And then the last thing, again, as I mentioned, if you take anything away from this, please, this is your opportunity to comment on this. I know that there's a lot of interest in the community of where we site this facility. The facility size is going to be anywhere from 59 to 69 acres. So in the impacts on the community, both positive and then those things that you may have concerns about, we want to hear your comments on. There were public hearings. I think this is a little outdated. So we've already had our public meetings and hearings on the 24th and 30th, but the opportunity to comment again is still through the 29th. And these are your ways to comment. Definitely go online at the address that you see there on the south, participate online, and you can provide your comment online or email, voicemail, or old school style snail mail as well. So I think that's my time. I'm now going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to talk about capital program realignment. And I believe Matt joined us.
Yes,
Matt,
I'm here.
are you there?
Can you hear me?
All right. We can. Thank you.
Excellent.
And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kirby. Well, good afternoon. My name is Matt Sheldon. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Planning and Integration at Sound Transit, and I'm one of the folks that's helping our Board of Directors think through the realignment process that Kirby just touched on. And I think right off the top, I'd like to say, if it hasn't been made clear already, that the two projects you just heard about, the Federal Way Link Extension and the OMF South, are in different places relative to this process. The Federal Way Link Extension, because it is under construction, is not a project that is being considered in realignment, that we are anticipating continuing to move forward on Federal Way Link unimpeded, if you will. OMF South, however, is one of the projects that is tied up in realignment, and Kirby alluded to this a little bit in the uncertainties around schedule for that project. So I'll speak to that here in a moment. But I'd like to give you a little bit broader overview of, well, what exactly is realignment and why are we doing it? So just to orient you, because this fundamentally is about money, I wanted to make sure people understand where Sound Transit's resources come from. And, there's a lot of sources where we get our dollars. There's two things I would like to point out here. First of all, is we are heavily sales tax dependent. These are voter approved taxes that are put in place as we go to the voters for system expansion plans. And our last expansion plan happened in 2016 when the Puget Sound region voters approved that program to move forward and a sales tax increase to support it. We also have the ability to issue debt to essentially finance parts of our program, and you can see the other sources there. But the sales tax is one I really wanted to point to in particular, because that's one where the COVID pandemic has had a negative impact on us. So, we're dealing with a couple of issues as we look at how to continue to move our overall capital program forward through 2041. The first is lower revenue, and that's really because of COVID and the recession that has occurred in the wake of the pandemic. Now, I should say, more recent information may begin to change this story a little bit. It may not be as dire as it has appeared, but we are still dealing with a lower sales tax and motor vehicle excise tax projection out through the life of the program because of the recession. Combined with that, we are also facing higher costs on delivering our projects. And there are really two factors at play, two major factors at play there. One is the continued hot property market in the region. I'm sure you're aware that property values have continued to rise. And in our case, there are properties that were identified 5 or 6 years ago during early planning that maybe at the time had appeared to be vacant and have now been developed. And because of that, as we move through the project development and design process, we're finding more expensive properties than we had previously anticipated. The other is the hot construction market itself. And the construction has continued generally unabated in the region. And there have been upward pressures on overall construction costs to move our projects. So this is a snapshot of kind of the current state of affairs, if you will, or the size of the problem that we're trying to address. And when we talk about realignment, that's the term that we have coined for the actions that the Sound Transit Board of Directors needs to undertake to ensure that we can live within our means. And that means potentially adjusting the program to be able to work within the revenues that we expect to receive. Now, on the revenue side, the effect of the recession at the moment is projected at about $6 billion less revenue for the agency out through 2041. And the size of that cost issue is about double that. We're seeing across the entire program increases that total up to over $12 billion. So the net effect is about an $18 billion hole. However, we do have some offsets to that. I mentioned earlier that we have the ability to issue debt. We do have some remaining debt capacity available to us in our finance plan, as well as now we are assuming higher grant receipts because the size of the program has grown. But the bottom line is we're currently looking at an affordability gap for the capital program of about $11.5 billion. So that's the problem that the Sound Transit Board is currently working through to solve. There are a number of tools available to address these issues. The first is cutting costs. And as cost increases began to become apparent late last year, one of the first things our board did was retain independent outside consultants to take a look at our cost estimating methodologies and really see if there are opportunities to find savings as we move through the project development process. However, there may, in the end, still need to be cost cut out of the projects, and that could take the form of changes in project scope. The board could choose to suspend some projects, and they do have the ability to cancel projects outright if they feel it necessary. They also have the ability, though, to look at delaying or phasing projects to spread costs over time and better match our financial capacity. And this is actually a tool that we have used in the past. This isn't the first time that we've seen these kinds of challenges, although the magnitude this time is somewhat higher. In the wake of the Great Recession back in 2009 and 10, the board did take some actions to realign the program at that time. And one of the tools they used was to delay and phase projects, essentially to take longer projects and split them into pieces and do them a piece at a time. The third tool here is looking for additional dollars. And this is one where the board has been very not only interested, but has already taken some actions. And we are working very closely with our partners at the federal and the state levels to look for opportunities for additional revenues to come to the fore. A good example of this is President Biden's recent announcement of a potential infrastructure package does include quite a bit of funding for public transit, and we are looking to see if there are opportunities within that for us to receive additional federal revenues if that package moves forward. So the board, when really set out a process last year to begin to move through and make some realignment decisions. They took some early actions to develop criteria for making those decisions last summer. They took a few actions last fall to keep some projects moving while the broader scope of the problem came into focus. But since the beginning of the year, they've really been moving with some alacrity to get to some decisions this summer. And we're currently at a stage where they have discussed a number of potential approaches or scenarios for addressing the gap with the tools that I just went through. They are going to receive in the next couple of weeks a pretty substantial update on our affordability gap. We are updating the finance plan with new revenue projections and potentially updated costs as a result of that independent outside review that I mentioned. So that $11.5 billion number that I mentioned, that could and likely will change here in the next several weeks. And if we have this conversation again, we may be talking about a different number, but we don't know exactly what that number is going to be quite yet. In May and June, however, with that information and with the benefit of ongoing public engagement and input, we do expect that they will begin to zero in on what their priorities are for realigning the program, and that by July, they could be considering an action to make changes to the program in terms of project timing and potentially scope to get the overall program back in balance. So let me stop there. That was a lot of information to throw at you, but I would be happy to answer any questions, and maybe I'll look to Katie to see if there's anything more we want to present before we do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that I can see everybody again. And if there are questions, maybe Zenobia and I can help field and route those to our three presenters. So here we go, stopping. Are there questions for any of our presenters today?
The food truck plaza at Highline, is that going to be at multiple locations? Is this a new idea?
So the food truck plaza is a new thing for us, and I think a really exciting thing coming in at Kent Des Moines Station. Probably, you know, Kirby also works on the Tacoma Dome Link extension, so he might have some thoughts on whether there's an opportunity at any of those farther south stations. But for right now, it'll be Kent Des Moines, special to the West Hill.
Yeah, I'll just add, I know we're a little, you know, by the way, I work on the Tacoma Dome Link extension project as well, and we're a ways off from knowing that level of detail for Tacoma Dome at this point. So, you know, any of the four stations obviously could be opportunities, but, you know, we haven't gotten to that yet, that level of detail yet.
Right, and we take lessons learned from each of our projects to the next project. So we'll see how it goes and maybe tweak it.
Okay. Let me see. So we've got the food truck plaza question. The next question, this one's for Kirby. I love my burgers. Is Dick's Drive-In still safe from the OMF?
Yes, it is. We will not go farther off north of the Midway landfill site. So Dick's is safe there. So.
Great, thanks, Kirby. Here's the next one. Which of the three options for the OMF facility is likeliest to be approved?
At this point, from a staff perspective, we have not created any recommendations, and we will not do so either. So the short answer is we don't know. We've evaluated all sites equally as much as possible, and we will present our evaluation, which is we've already done, to our board. And at this point, our board of directors is waiting for the public comment period to close. We will compile all the comments. We'll present that to our board of directors as well. And then, as I mentioned, as part of our schedule, they will identify a preferred alternative in late summer, early fall. And it will be at that point, we'll kind of know the preference, Sound Transit Board's preference. But until then, they're all, from our viewpoint, they're all equal.
Great, thanks, Kirby. So when will the OMF start hiring folks?
Well, construction could start as early as 2024. So if you look at I mentioned 470 jobs. Those are the permanent jobs. So those typically come on closer to opening date. But even before then, just similar to Federal Way Link Extension, we'll be hiring construction workers, and construction, as I mentioned, will start as early as 2024.
Great, and I think, you know, Kirby maybe and Jefferson could chime in on this one. Jefferson from our community engagement team, who's also on the line. How can somebody apply to be part of Sound Transit's apprenticeship program?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I can put a link in the chat, but there are apprenticeship opportunities. We work with the local a new program, and so folks can all they need is a GED or a high school diploma to participate, and it's free to get started. And that's kind of a gateway into some really great journeyman and other construction level jobs. So I'll put some links in the chat.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that I've seen come through. Are there other questions that folks have for the group? Oh, I see one here from Steve. What makes the landfill site equal to the other 2 sites when it will cost twice as much?
Well, when I say equal, I mean that we've evaluated them equally. Obviously, the results of the EIS show that there are differences between the sites. The Midway landfill, just by the way, will cost more and will take longer to construct. And so that's one element to look at. The Federal Way sites have more environmental impacts because there are more wetlands. The Hollywood Creek system is in that area. There are more impacts to residents and business displacements. So, there's the evaluation kind of looked at all sites. When I say we've evaluated them equally, that's probably the correct term, I should say. But the EIS shows that there are different impacts among them. Hopefully that helps. I can understand the way I said it. It may seem like they're all equal. I'm not saying that they're like equal at the end of the day, but what I meant was we've evaluated them equally, and at the end of the day, we're not making a recommendation from a staff perspective.
Thanks, Kirby. And I see that Jefferson popped the link to information about the apprenticeships program into the chat, and Zenobia will make sure to share both the OMF DEIS comment information and this resource about apprenticeships to you to get out to the group. So thank you for helping us transmit all that information.
Here at the Chamber, we just had our first in-person or partially in-person hybrid ribbon cutting with Abyssinia Hair Clinic. And I think Charlie put in the chat the link for that. So if you guys want to take a look, there was a drone there were photos. It was absolutely a lot of fun. And so I mentioned that to say that the Chamber is working on ways to get back together safely and socially distanced and as safe as possible. So be on the lookout for that. The opportunity to network with other businesses is coming back. And, the one thing that hasn't gone away, and I think it's apparent with the presentation today, is your input as a business owner and your input as a community member is really important. And so you definitely want to stay tapped into what is going on. Just because we've moved to this online world, I see Katie shaking her head, just because we moved to this online world, your voice really matters. And the good thing is that you don't have to show up at some community center at 6:30 at night to give your opinion. You actually can log in, you can phone call, you can snail mail, you can all of that. So please participate in these type of activities because it really affects your community, and it affects, and just looking at, Darius and D'Angelo, it affects your clientele, right? How are they going to be able to get to work? One of the benefits of working and living in the same city is that you can transport from one to the other pretty quickly. And so this is going to be a benefit for our community. And so if you are fighting for this station to be in your area or out of your area, this is your opportunity to have your voice heard. And so we're excited to partner with Sound Transit with this. We're partners with a variety of different agencies that are bringing valuable products and services to our community. And so I just appreciate you guys. I appreciate your presentation today. And just be on the lookout for different events that we have here at the Chamber, a lot of education opportunities. And we have a variety of people on the call today, and I'll let you guys get out of here a little bit early, but we have a variety of people who are on the board of directors for the Chamber. We have committee members, and so I just want to quickly go over the committees that we have at the Chamber. We have an education committee. The education committee is really responsible for, we have a scholarship that goes out with Kent Community Foundation. We partner with Kent School District and go into the school and talk to the youth about different programs, apprenticeships, education needed to go into a certain field, right? So we have the education committee. We have the government affairs committee. So if you have any interest at all in the legislation that is going to affect your business, even if it's just taxes or what the recovery process is going to look like, you can attend or join a government affairs committee. We have the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and this is a new committee for 2021. So if you have an interest in learning more about DEI, then you can definitely, join that just as a visitor or join the committee. Great question, Holly. To sit on a committee, yes, you need to be a chamber member. To actually visit a committee or sit on a committee, you do need to be a chamber member. We have the events committee, and so they are responsible for helping us put on, before the pandemic, our 150 events. And so now they're helping us with some of our larger events. We have a golf tournament coming up next year. We're going to have a really huge, back to business party coming soon. So the events committee, again, you can join the committee or join just a meeting to learn more. And then we have the ambassador committee. And the ambassador committee is a group of folks who are committed to meeting with members of the chamber, checking in, making sure that your first time to an event, you're not alone as a new member. You have someone there to kind of walk you through the process. And these are folks who have used the chamber to better their business. So they're going to be a really great steward for you to understand how to maximize your membership, but also make that connection. And then, of course, we have a finance committee, and they are responsible for managing the budget for the chamber. So if you have an interest in numbers and that, you can definitely join in the finance committee or join the committee on a monthly basis. So with that being said, I will let you have 15 minutes or so back into your time. Julia, our president for 2021, did you have anything before I can hear the dogs in the back, before we let everyone go?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for attending today. I want to remind you also that this was streamed via South King Media and I Love Kent, and you can find this recording shortly on our YouTube channel to view at a later time. I want to say thank you once again to Abyssinia Hair and Beauty Clinic. You're an incredible support of the chamber, and we appreciate you. If you haven't been to visit them, it's worth the trek downtown. I also want to thank once again our gold, silver, bronze, and copper sponsors. We couldn't have these events without your support. Zenobia, thank you for your investment. And Araya, thank you also for your support of all of these events and managing the back of these to make these possible. A couple reminders about our upcoming chamber events, and you can find all these on the chamber website. Chamber, your chamber, your vision is monthly, last Friday of the month, and it's really your opportunity to provide feedback on how the chamber can best support you. And it's hosted by various members. So we'd love to have you stop in there and let us know how we're doing and how we can better support you. There's quite a few workshops coming up. There's an employee engagement workshop coming up on the 8th, put on by BBSI. There's another workshop on the 20th, maximizing team productivity, and a business essentials workshop and a speed networking event, again, coming up in April. I know we had our first one in March. It's hard to believe it's April, but I know it was well attended and a great event for networking. So I hope to see you all next month. If I don't see you at a workshop soon, and next month's membership luncheon is on May 6th. And just a quick reminder that, the chamber is here to serve you. And if you need anything, please reach out. Immediately following this, you'll receive a super quick 2-question survey to help provide us feedback and continue to make these events meaningful to everyone. So thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.